Welcome to a very special episode of the Constitutionals podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. Hello! I feel like I should have said that first. Here we are. I have a special interview with Bobby Moynihan. I sat down with now I can officially dub him, my good friend. Bobby and I sat down to talk about his new Comedy Central online show animated series, Lightning Wolves. Lightning Wolves is a cartoon akin to, it's animated, as I said before. It's a cartoon akin to the Thundercats and Transformers and every other, and He-Man and every other, and She-Ra. And I'll finish that sentence in a second. I think of one more 80s cartoon show. It's reminiscent of those shows, and it's a very funny thing. It's very, very, very omniscient of itself, and it can see all around itself, and it knows what it is. I enjoyed the episodes I got to see, and I got to see episodes before everybody. It features the voices of Taran Killam, Ben Schwartz, Colby Smulders, Donald Faison, Eugene Cordero, Sofia Gonzalez, just a slew of very funny people, very recognizable names that you have known and seen before. It's an 8-episode show that you can watch online on Comedy Central Animated on YouTube, as well as Comedy Central Animated Facebook. It's already launched. You can see episodes right now as we speak. This interview was great. I enjoyed Bobby. We off camera, we discussed hanging out. We didn't. We didn't, but it was a nice little chat I had with Bobby, and I hope I did it justice. And there is that. Listen, if you like my voice, and if you want to see more interviews just like this, head on over to cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to other comedians of the same caliber as Bobby Moynihan. You can also see a video version of this interview over there on my YouTube page, youtube.com/cpluscomedy. And let's not forget, you can also see News Time, our premier weekly news show where I take one topic and I dig around and I make stories about that one topic. What else is going on? Instagram, Twitter @cpluscomedy. Facebook, cpluscomedy. Me on Instagram and Twitter @ChadBlackWhite. Now here is the interview, and then following that will be an episode of the Constitutionals. the thing you don't want to listen to. So you're going to listen to this intro part, then you're going to listen to the Constitution, then you're going to listen to Bobby Moynihan, and then you're going to go, it's enough, and they're going to turn off the rest of the episode of this podcast. Okay. Rate, review, subscribe to this show wherever you get your podcasts. Tell your friends about it. You want to see a video version of the podcast as well, head on over to youtube.com/cpluscomedy. Thank you so much. I love you. Bye. Awesome. Hey, Bobby. Thank you for
man. How are you?
I'm doing well. By yourself?
Doing good.
Good. So I just wanted to obviously talk to you about the new show. It looked great, very beautiful, very reminiscent of every Saturday morning cartoon I grew up with.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lowbrow, the animation studio knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it captures a feel that I don't think is in any cartoon today, especially because it kind of looks kind of fuzzy, but the colors are very, very much there.
That's awesome. Thank you. That makes me happy. That's what we were going for.
How was it voicing all of those characters that you got to do?
The best. I think I was very selfish. I got to play a good guy, their robot sidekick, and a bad guy. I took a lot of parts for myself in this one. It was actually more just because it was a pandemic and we had a microphone and I could do more by myself. But no, I love voicing characters. So to get to do something like this, which is something I wrote and love, was super fun.
Did you have to, when you were writing it, did everything just come naturally to you, or were there things that you wanted to hit necessarily because the Saturday morning tropes that we had to deal with for so long?
Yeah, it's like a weird thing. It's like I decided to write a very complicated thing, which is like 80s cartoons, realizing that they are cartoons and they are just toys. So there was a lot to explain. But yeah, I just mashed up a lot of 80s cartoons together and then thought about, those life lessons that they learned in every episode and kind of how they would compare to an adult today trying to learn a life lesson, and just wanted to do that. So there's a lot of cursing and adult life lessons in this version. Sort of 80s cartoons for the adults now who grew up with them.
Yeah, the life lessons things really sticks out because you don't see that anymore. Even early on in South Park's tenure, they were doing at the end of the day episodes,
Yeah.
so it's nice to see that kind of harken back. I think that's probably one of my favorite aspects of it is that you always have to take something away from GI Joe or something.
Yeah, knowing is half the battle. That was kind of we have that. I think ours is and that's something worth taking into consideration. That we say it every episode where they learn their lesson.
I think one of my favorite parts of this show is the "and" credit is always given to Eugene Cordero, Little Beach. That's a very funny runner that really sticks out to me. I seriously, that's my
You
favorite.
are making you are making my year right now, because all the little dumb things that I hope worked for the past 2 years that we've been working on it. It's nice to see that. Yeah, Eugene's a good buddy of mine, and I just think it like that, and Ambi Davis as Alice. Just kind of like that trope of having that. I really like it, and that we do it in every episode makes me laugh. That was actually just me trying to make Eugene laugh.
Was it easy to cast this show because Taryn's in it and Eugene's in it, and then you've got Ben Schwartz and Colby Smulders and just a great group of comedy people. But was it easy for you to just help and pick out and go, these people will go here?
Yeah, it was just it's all my buddies. Yeah, it was a lot of people I had wanted to work with, and when I was writing it, I just went, well, this Donald Faison would knock this out of the park, and I've been wanting to work with him. And Sofia Gonzalez is fantastic as Wolfette, and Nicole Parker can do any voice in the world, so I knew that was a no-brainer. And Lennon had a very deep this character she used to do in improv, 25 years ago when we met, and like at UCB, and I was like, can you please just come do this again? And yeah, just all favors, all me calling friends and asking them to come do dumb voices on this silly cartoon.
When you were concepting the show, did you and it is a group of improvisers, a group of great common people who can play from the page and from their minds and
Yeah.
hearts, if that's what the improv is, from the heart. It's what did you all have a chance to play around? Because I know that you might want to just go from the script, but did you let them do anything of their own?
Yeah, this one was definitely. I did a series called Lofi in the same way I did 8 shorts in this thing called Lofi, and it was a lot. It was mostly improvised. It kind of just went like, this is the idea for this episode, and we're just going to improvise. And this one was completely different. This one was scripted, but there is a bit of improvising in it. Everybody's so funny, and they kind of added their flavor to it. Uh, Jimmy Simpson, who plays Moom, the bad guy, I had just been a fan of his forever, and I did something with him. I think it was just like a Zoom call, and he offhandedly mentioned that he loved Thundercats, and I just sent him a message over Twitter, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this kind of Thundercats thing. Would you want to play the bad guy in it? And he immediately said yes, and I was so happy because he's kind of my favorite part of the whole thing. He got it completely, and he just got that Skeletor vibe of like, I'm the bad guy, but I'm actually the funny one who you're rooting for. And like, a lot of his stuff is improvised. He made me laugh, and I left a lot of it in.
He was an excellent addition, and I think along the lines of the characters, all the characters, it kind of reminds me of something that's a cross between Saturday morning cartoons and then also Adult Swim, and especially with the cuts to reality, because that seemed unnecessary but also very very fun and engaging, because seeing those two kids
It's
dance at
going
the end.
somewhere. You'll see.
Okay, I can't wait. I mean, I love it, seriously. Those kids, seeing those kids is just the one of the
Ah,
best
this makes me
parts.
so happy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's 8 episodes. You see, you'll see. Yeah,
I can't wait to
you're
see where
there
that
for a
goes.
reason. Yeah.
But you know what? Let's see. I think that's all I have for you. But thank you so much for sitting down with me. I appreciate it.
Thank
This
you,
is a
Chad. You do
great
great.
show. Yeah, of course. And yeah, good luck. Good luck with the launch and everything, and continue doing a great job with Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks so
You're very
much.
welcome. All right.
Pleasure to meet you, man.
And welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Episode 244. Here we are. It's several weeks off. too much work, apparently, for me to sit down and record this show, even though multiple times I was like, hey, maybe I should record this podcast. I even prepped for it multiple times. Now I'm having trouble putting Audition. I have this app that I use for the Mac, and it's called Magnet, and I spent $8 on it. And what it does is it shrinks your windows down to sizes. It snaps your windows magnetically to your screen desktop, like you were in a Windows platform, and it has worked. It has finally worked, but it took forever for it to snap. Here we are. 244. Let's get on with this because I am cooking dinner and it is in the oven. I need to pay attention to it. You may be hearing the microwave fan. You may be hearing The Simpsons in the background. I don't care. Room tone. Getting room tone. Here we go. Netflix may finally get ads. Also, Elon Musk bought Twitter today, so there's that for... I was just listening to Jimmy Kimmel on Kara Swisher's podcast, Sway, and we have the same thought. One person should not own Twitter, but then then all these people are like free speech. But man, when your free speech is about hate and racism and just no. Any Hoosers, this comes from Wall Street Journal. Netflix explores a version with ads as subscriber base shrinks. So last week we got the first quarter results for Netflix. They lost 200,000 subscribers, and they're supposedly expected to lose about 2 million more in the next quarter. There's also news that this is coming from the top of my head. I'm not reading this, I promise. There's also news that they are cracking down on password sharing, which, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but it's been when you're giving people water for so long, water's free, then why not? What I'm saying is, in my broken simile, my broken metaphor here, because it was not a like or as, and my broken metaphor is it's a little too late for cracking down on password sharing. And then what happens when you're a family and you pay for the most expensive account and you have to, which is now $20, and it's the kid who's at college, and then the young adult kid who's living with their friends, and then the two parents or three parents. It might be a throuple. I really like the shirt I'm wearing today. It's a shirt I bought at Kohl's. I used to work at Kohl's a long time ago, and I hate it so much. Also, my phone is broken. My screen broke. Something happened at the gym, and then another thing happened at the gym, and it got even worse. And Google is refusing to replace it unless I pay, even though I pay for phone, coverage or whatever, the $15 a month for this S21 Ultra. They're refusing. You have to put money down in order for them to send a phone out, or you send your phone in and be without a phone for as long as it takes them to send one out to you, which I think is insane. If I pay $15 a month plus the 70 or so for the coverage, you're sending me a phone. I don't care. What am I talking about? Oh, this shirt. I bought it when I used to work at Kohl's, and a lot of when I first got it, people were like, "Ugh, that's a dad shirt. I don't like it." Blah blah blah. But as the years have gone by, people go, that's a nice shirt. That's a cool shirt. And I wear it and the buttons are nicely spaced, so I can just I can leave it unbuttoned all the way down to the middle of my chest. It looks great. And then I've gotten more muscular, so I fill it out even more. So here's that. All right, let's go on. So we know the numbers. They lost subscribers, and the growth is. I feel like it is plateauing, and they're blaming it a lot on the pandemic. But I don't think the pandemic really has much to do with it. People are going to watch TV regardless, and if you're the number one streamer, they're going to continue to watch you. But here we come, along with Disney Plus and Hulu, and now we have the newly combined Warner Bros. Discovery, which will see more additions of Discovery Plus content on HBO Max, and then as well as CNN. Now that CNN Plus has been wisely dismantled, may or may not have mentioned that in a meeting this morning. Not me, but it was in a meeting. Nothing bad. No one's talking anything bad. It's just discussing what's going on in the world of the Warner Bros. Discovery team. So as Netflix continues to push worldwide and continue to dominate out there, they also had to cancel or get rid of accounts in Russia because because of that over there, and then they're down in Latin America, which has lost about 400,000 subscribers, and U.S. and Canada, which is the North Americas. The company lost about 600,000, which they say is due to that recent price increase. But I would appreciate, and I don't know how sustainable this is. We know that prices are going to increase for these services. We've already seen Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus each creep up $1. Actually, I don't think ESPN Plus was $1. Well, raised $1, but we did see the two of Disney's streaming services go up by $1 whole. And the whole joke is people going, "Oh, well, all these streaming services, I'm basically paying for cable again," which is not true because I also pay for cable. YouTube TV, same thing. And I don't know how sustainable this is, and obviously because Netflix is not operating in the green, and probably never will. And then watch into the fourth quarter this year, it's going to be Netflix is the most profitable company in the world. I wonder, if this is going to be I think a service like Apple TV Plus is a loss leader for Apple because they put in $1 billion or so into making shows and movies and acquiring things like that, and you have Netflix over here raising prices to now $20 for a 4K streaming option, as opposed to what it was 4 years ago, like 15 or $16. I wonder if this is going to be worth it in the end in order to fight, the other streamers that Netflix really opened the door for, with the exception of Hulu. Hulu was there from the beginning. So the companion article I have with this, written by John Coblin and Nicole Sperling over at New York Times, Netflix's stumble could be a warning sign for the streaming industry. I mean, it's basically saying that if Netflix can falter, then and they're the leader in this, then any one of these can falter, and that's for Apple TV, which is the only streaming service to win an Oscar, and for Disney, which is quite frankly the quote unquote upstart here, the scrappy young upstart. Then this could be a little bit concerning, and not now, not in the short run, but when things move along forward, especially as let's say there is, God forbid, another pandemic, and everybody and everything, people don't want to shut down again. But what if we have to shut down again, or what if it gets to a point where it's going to be difficult to operate, for Fox Broadcasting to operate Tubi, and for NBC Universal to operate Peacock. And here's a question that Coblin and Sperling write about. Can Netflix's original content set itself apart from everybody else's? And then they reference Apple TV Severance and then Amazon's Lord of the Rings coming up. And those are obviously two different things that really are standing out. And even though Lord of the Rings has yet to appear on Amazon, but it's $500 million, and I hope it's good because they finally have people of color in this thing. But will it will Netflix be able to make something of itself when it comes to standing out above its neighbors? Because you know what, I don't like Star Wars, but I have been coerced by somebody to watch not Star Wars, not to watch the stupid freaking movies, to watch The Mandalorian, and I gotta say, man, it's not a bad show. It's not a bad show. But then I see, a movie like The Bubble on Netflix, and I'm a third of the way through it, and I stopped it one night, and I just never went back. And they can bring on, anime like Katara Lives at Home, which is a show I watched one episode of. It's very cute. But then I think what it really stands out is what they're doing in quite frankly, the gaming space, where they have shows like Cat Burglar, interactive shows like Cat Burglar, and then big hits like Russian Doll, which is not interactive, but it gets people talking. And I think part of their problem is, I always hear people complain, I wish streaming services would drop everything at once, so I can just binge it. I can just binge it and enjoy it. But for shows like Russian Doll, they drop and then people talk about, or Bridgerton season 2. That's supposed to be the biggest show of all time. They drop it, people talk about it, and then they just move on. And yeah, people can 4 weeks later, a month later, people can write their little what is it called, think pieces about the show they love so much. But in the long run, people were talking about Severance for 2 straight months because because Apple TV dropped 2 episodes at once, and then they continued up with the rest of the season. I'm still thinking about Severance. I'm still thinking about the finale. And I watched it the day of. But then the counterpoint to that is you can get stuck behind it. You can forget about a show, which I did with Severance. And I was like 3 weeks behind on that show. For Netflix, I just think it takes, slow down with the content spending, slow down with buying, acquiring shows that aren't yours, slow down with just greenlighting every little thing. Because with Apple TV and even with this, Disney Plus, those are 2 different services that don't have a lot on them, but I kind of know what I'm going to watch when I go there. All right, I'm going to watch Severance, okay? I'm going to tough my way through Central Park. It's not a good show. Okay. I'm going to watch The Mandalorian. I'm going to tolerate an episode of The Bad Batch. I'm just kidding. The Bad Batch is great. Maybe I would like Star Wars. I mean, if the fans weren't so racist. And so if it's true. And that's just my thoughts on Netflix. Nobody was asking, and nobody cares really. They're going to continue to dominate when it all comes down to it. I even opened up Netflix here on my web browser and did not comment on it. All right, let's see what is next. BuzzFeed. Oh, this is a story from weeks ago, but I'm still going to do it. This comes from Deadline. Written by Jill Goldsmith and Ted Johnson. BuzzFeed scaling back in news as several editors depart and some layoffs are planned. So we knew this was going to come. BuzzFeed's SPAC did not do very hot. And the Jonah Peretti, founder and CEO of BuzzFeed, has said that they're going to downsize. And this comes after the union talks, I believe. Companion article written by Antoinette Sue. BuzzFeed News Union vows to fight job cuts. We won't stand for it. Over at The Wrap, the pro version of The Wrap. But I'm reading it. BuzzFeed Union is going to fight this as well. It's been a tough year for BuzzFeed. They launched this SPAC. First, they launched the SPAC after they failed to do it the first time. And they had a little bit of a revenue boost, but it just wasn't enough in order to, and I don't want to say save this company, but put this company into a position where it doesn't need to do any type of downsizing. Shares closed at $5 back in March, late March, up more than 6%. The 52-week high was 15. BuzzFeed is a little bit of an enigma. I don't think that it is it is. I know I've commented on this before. It's a place where they try to do real news and put it alongside listicles and things of that nature, and it doesn't work. And they need to. I think they should. What they should have done before launching that SPAC was spin off the news portion into something of its own and really rename it. I think Vice should have done the same thing. Is spin off the news portion, something, and it can still be related to BuzzFeed. It could be Buzz News or the feed, something to separate yourself from, so that investors can take that portion more seriously. But if you also look at the New York Times, they've been listed on the Nasdaq, and they've been listed for decades, and they've never performed well. They've basically launched and then flatlined, which is somewhat good, somewhat bad. And I know this as someone who has stock inside New York Times. I pay for stock. I pay for the subscription. Baby, I'm all in. There's going to be job cuts. The union will stand up against it. BuzzFeed has won so many awards, including a Pulitzer. And now people are just being or like given like cash to essentially leave their jobs. This comes after last year, after HuffPost acquired the company and cut 70 staffers in U.S. and Canada. And those cuts were supposed to, quote, manage costs and cut losses at HuffPost. So there we go. Speaking of CNN Plus, speaking of news, CNN Plus shutting down. It's been less than a month. Those people, everybody that they hired on, are basically jockeying for positions over at regular old CNN. Again, I don't think this should have happened in the first place. And I understand what they were getting at. I don't know if this came from Stanky or from the CEO of CNN at the time, Jeff. Is that his name? CEO Jeff. Oh God, I feel so bad. CEO. What is his name? Jeff Zucker. Yes. I don't know if this came from him at the time. I don't know. I actually, you know what? I don't even know the minds behind it. I do think it was a bad idea. They were obviously trying to fight Fox News, Fox Nation. Fox News is Fox Nation streaming service. That is a very popular streaming service. But again, that is a far-right streaming service. That's a bunch of racists looking to supplement their racist ideals. And CNN Plus, and even if MSNBC launched something, which they are with Peacock, you see what I'm getting at there. That never should have happened. They should have doubled if they wanted to do CNN Originals, or CNN Plus Originals or whatever. Call it CNN Originals. Double down. Throw it on HBO Max. And then after a couple of weeks, throw it on CNN proper when you need to fill an hour or so. People will go for the HBO moniker, the HBO name. When people see that The Mandalorian is available on Disney Plus, they're gonna go, I don't know what this Star Wars thing is, but I like Star Wars and I like Disney. I'm gonna subscribe to Disney Plus so I can watch The Mandalorian. That's what people are gonna do. Nobody's gonna go, I gotta pay another $4 to watch CNN. No one is that big of a fan of CNN. Trust me. You watch that when you're in a hospital or getting your car fixed, or some restaurant has it on. This is true. I walked into my gym one morning, and this is all right. I'll tell this part of the story. It's not a story, just an anecdote. I walked into my gym one morning, and Fox News was playing on like 2 or 3 of the TVs, and I was just like, maybe I don't run today. Maybe I don't run on the treadmills today. And then even before then, when I lived in, it is so hot in here. It is so hot in here because the oven is on. Even then, when I lived in the suburbs, the Fox News was playing on a majority of the TVs in my gym up there. Yeah, that's what it is. People are gonna stick with what they know and what they like. They're not gonna. And, I like CNN. I like a lot of people there. when I said that, I just thought of the women that I like there. Just like I was like Caitlin Collins, Brianna. That's what happens with the lizard brain. But I like a lot of people at CNN and what Peacock is doing, what MSNBC is doing is they're getting and today section and NBC News. So they're taking all three of those and just launching live channels on Peacock, and so we're going to be able to have MSNBC branded shows on Peacock. You're going to have exclusive shows for Peacock, and I can assume that they're going to have those people do a lot of cross promotion on MSNBC proper. So we're going to have people like Chris, but now for CNN Plus, we're going to have people like Chris Wallace and Audie Cornish and everybody who had a show on CNN Plus is I would hope that they, with these big names, move them over to CNN regular. And maybe not everybody needs a 2-hour show. Chris Wallace came from Fox News and he had a big show there, and he's your big name right now, so maybe give him 2 hours. But when it comes to somebody else who had a show on CNN Plus, maybe give them an hour. This is all Chris Litch was brought in from CBS. Worked on Colbert's show, then worked on CBS Mornings, or worked on CBS Mornings and worked on Colbert. And he's got a good mind for news. I think he's a very smart guy. I've been following his career for the past couple of years since his move to Colbert, and he can really change things around. So this is a good appointment for him, and I want to see how he can shake up CNN as the new CEO. And if he needs a right-hand man, buddy. Anybody watches Late Night? Seth Meyers. CNN Plus was just marred with complications, I think, from the beginning, and expecting them to do so much in so little time is just was just fascinating to me. And again, I don't blame employees. I don't blame anybody. It's just this was a product of we have this news arm and we have to fight the opposing side. So here we go. Sorry, CNN is down the middle. We have to fight the other streamer. People like Cassie Hunt. She gonna get a show? She left MSNBC to get a show on CNN Plus. I like these people. Let's take a break. And I come back. I'm going to talk about some more stuff. Here we go. Going to break right now. Oh, you know what? I forgot to arm the thing. All right. This is what happens when you take a month and a half. Back from break in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the show. Here we are, final part of this episode. Let's talk about the Hollywood dinner's going great, by the way. It's finished. Just put in some leftovers from Saturday because I spent too much money on it in the oven. Okay, this comes from Variety, written by Cynthia Littleton. How BIPOC audiences drive moviegoing. UCLA Hollywood Diversity Report. We're back at it again. UCLA has released its 9th installment of the Hollywood Diversity Report, something I've been following for such a long time. I enjoy it. It talks about the growth of the growth of Hollywood's diversity. Right now, there's a lot of slow growth behind the camera for people of color, women, and Latinos, which is good. They found that, excuse me. And this comes after the pandemic, or during the pandemic. So this is during and after. The study found that movies with 21 to 31% of cast members from BIPOC backgrounds tend to have the strongest returns at the box office, while films with less diverse casts perform worse. And you know what? And I can see that. I can see that from not from as an outsider, but as an insider. I don't think that if you are somebody who pays attention to that stuff, I don't think that it is possible to to see it, especially like if you're just a fan. You know, if you're a fan who's like, I'm gonna go see Everything Everywhere All at Once because it is a popular movie. I think that's what that is. But when you have movies like, oh God, see, I can't even. Whenever I don't even pay attention to a movie if there's not a diverse cast anymore. I just don't, and I'm glad I do that because I have no plans on seeing a movie that is just about two white people dating. Fresh, the movie Fresh on Hulu. I went up Netflix just to see if I could pull a movie, but the movie Fresh on Hulu. I mean, I'm sure it did fine for Hulu, and I'm sure people watched it and everything, but you're not hearing about it. Versus a movie like The Bubble, like I heard the lead up to it, and there's still stuff happening from it after effect. In 2011, 43.1% of actors in the top 252 movies came from BIPOC backgrounds. That's a big gain from 2011 when excuse me, 2021. There's a typo here. So in 2021, there's 43.1% of actors who have BIPOC backgrounds. In 2011, it was 20. Amazing. Some 31% of the top performing movies released last year had a majority minority cast. That's great. I still would like to see, and I mean, and obviously this happens because of they're including movies not just released in theaters but also VOD and direct to streaming. And so I would like to see this happen in more big blockbuster style movies as well. We have movies like every time I watch a Fast and Furious, and I only watch 5 on. I don't watch anything else before because they're all bad. But 5 on, those are good. But whenever I watch those, especially particularly after rest in peace Paul Walker passed away, those movies are largely, like, with the exception of Charlize Theron and the guy who plays Mr. Nobody, whose name I'm forgetting right now. I can see it in my head, Kurt Russell. With the exception of those two, and John Cena, I guess, those movies are a bunch of brown people running around, saving the world. Versus, go back to Disney, a bunch of white people saving the world. Well, hold on. Disney makes movies about people of color. They just have to be about their backgrounds. It's true. Look at Turning Red. God, I hated that movie. I'll watch it one more time, but I did not like Turning Red. I did not like Luca. I haven't liked a Pixar movie in years, apparently. I did not like Luca. I fell asleep. I was tired, though, mostly because of the whole TV situation. Among the directors from the 252 films that were analyzed, 21, and these are the top films of the year, based on, I guess, box office viewership or whatever. 21.8% were women and 30.2% were people of color. Those are directors. Among the screenwriters for those films, 33.5% were women and 32.3% were people of color. Asian Americans made up 5.6% of the lead acting roles, 6.4% of overall casts, 6.7% of directors, 4% of writers. Black actors held 15.5% of lead roles, 18% of overall roles, as well as 9.5% as directors and 10.4% of actors. Latino actors held 7.1% lead roles, 7.7 overall roles, 5.6 writers, 7.1 directors. The study found no lead actors of Middle Eastern or North African descent. Native Americans remain virtually invisible per their study, making up less than 1% of each job category in the study. Women made up 47.2% of lead acting roles, nearly double the 2011 level of 2025. So we're making strides, and I think it's growing even more. But according to this next article, this companion article I have written by David Robb from Deadline, UCLA's Hollywood Diversity Report documents enormous gains by women and people of color, but Latinx representation still lags. And I think this is pointing to an area where, and it's just more about the numbers thing, but I think this is pointing to an area where we are still getting, and by the way, Native American writing credits were 0.8%. And I think this is getting to a point where, or comments on the nature of, I said it kind of passively about Turning Red. That movie And I know that that director has their story to tell and wants to tell that story, but I think we've come to a point where we're getting these chances as people of color who are in the industry to able to tell different stories, and there's always the reverting back to I got to tell a story about a background and my racial background, and it's got to be about that, which I mean is unfortunate. Where I know people are going to disagree with me with, but it's quite frankly I don't give a hoot. But and I mean it's true. I make fun of my mom about this. Like the only movies that they watch on the Netflix that I pay for, just years of her taking care of me, and then I'm like, you're using my Netflix. But the only thing that they watch on there is my parents watch is like movies starring black people that are like poorly made, and they're all titles like He Hit Me and Devotion of a Christian Woman, things like that, just trash. And we uh, the colored folk should be able to make an Avengers movie that doesn't have to deal a superhero movie that doesn't have to deal with being set in Africa. I'm just saying. I want to make more Fast and Furious. That's why I like that. That's why I champion those movies. Yeah, they're stupid, but they work. And something I want to touch on really quickly. This comes from Variety, written by KJ Yasmin and Minori Ravindran. And then if you look at a movie like the new Top Gun Maverick, that is such a diverse cast. You got Jay Ellis, that handsome SOB, John Hamm, others, the rest. Now our blockbusters are getting a little bit more diverse. Now this comes from Variety. Inside the BBC staff exodus, women of color are exhausted from fighting a broken system. And this is a very good piece that came out several weeks ago talking about how BBC has had its own share of issues when it comes to women of color not getting their voices heard at the British Broadcasting Corporation. As of March 2021, black, Asian, and minority staff accounted for 15.9% of all BBC workers and 12.6% of leadership, which is interesting because like I watch BBC News Report, Nightly News or whatever that is called, from time to time, and I see it is a largely white staff because you can see into the background of the newsroom and everything. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know because I'm not as in tune to the BBC News as much as one should be. But if you liken it to the New York Times or NPR has had its own issues with having people of color or not having people of color and women and minorities, in big leadership positions, and to some extent, same thing for Disney, where all those big CEO types left their positions a couple of years ago because they just weren't having their voices heard. And if it's anything, if this BBC problem is anything like NPR, then it stems from the top. Apparently, one veteran told Variety, "There's no problem with entry level hires. You can get a job at BBC if you're black, Asian, or minority ethnic background, no problem. But then you're gonna get to a certain level and not going to go any further." And that's probably like not the main issue, but that is where an issue stems from, is where you don't have their voices at a high enough level. There's a podcast I used to listen to called Writer's Room or something like that with Ben Blacker or Ben Acker, one of those guys. And when one of the writers they were talking to was a writer for Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and he's a black writer, and he pitched a story about one topic that had nothing to do with race. It was one topic about like a business or something, and then John Oliver's team and John were like, well, actually, can you do the story about black people? Which, have the story written about black people, written by, or an Asian person, or Latina person, written by that person of that race. But it it's at some point, that's what I was talking about. We're getting to a point where it's diminishing returns, where you're going to tell the same story over and over and over again, where we finally have a chance to tell something different. And that wasn't even by that writer's choice. Again, that black writer's choice. He wanted to do something else. 66.5% of white British staff worked at the BBC for less than a year, and 69.2% for 1 to 3 years, while 78.1% stayed on longer than a decade. As of March 2021, 23.9% of black, Asian, and minority staff worked at the BBC for less than a year, and 20.9% for anywhere between 1 to 3 years, and only 12.4% worked for stints of 10 years or more. I mean, we're getting to a point where everything, every corporation, every entity just has to be held accountable, because there's no reason that they shouldn't be. If you're going to be telling stories about things all over the world, then you should be able to have people representing you. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where we've got some other things. Interview with Bobby Moynihan is at the... I'll just record that later. It's fine. Interview with Bobby Moynihan. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. You're the best. If you want to see a video version of the show, youtube.com/cpluscomedy. If you want to see our weekly show, News Time, that's also on youtube.com/cpluscomedy. It's good. It's pretty fun. I enjoy it. Thank you for listening. Rate, review, subscribe. Tell your friends about this. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at cpluscomedy. Me at Chad Black White on all of those as well. Thank you so much. And we are leaving, baby.